Hey, John, thanks for joining me today, brother.
Absolutely, man. How
So,
are
dude,
you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm great, great.
Tell us, give us a little background, brother, on you and kind of the way you grew up, mom, dad, siblings, that type of thing.
hmm Well, we grew up in my younger years in California. My my mom and dad stayed together for 25 years. I've got a brother and a sister, and mm, um, you don't know anything back then what's going on, but my dad didn't like me, and I don't know all the reasons of that. I lived before I started elementary school. I lived a lot with my grandma and grandpa because it was safer for me. Um, uh, Dad would. He was very, very angry man. Very. I mean, and you never knew when it was coming. You just didn't. We could be playing cards, playing a board game, and all of a sudden the table's going clear across the room. And he would. I remember the first time that I knew I was scared of my dad. I was about when I really knew there was something goofed up, something is wrong. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and we were bleeding the brakes on his big truck. Now I could barely reach. You know what that is? You pump it and bleed it off, and well, I must have pumped when I should have held, or held when I should have pumped. But Dad come out with oil, and I remember that rage to this day. And I'm 60 years old, and he come out and oh, I can't believe the rage. And here's the part, John, that bothered me, and I didn't realize this till later on. He was I was getting knocked around pretty good, and my mom come out, and I ran behind my mom, and the emasculation that was that I would have never known in those days. And my dad said, "You wait, she always won't be here, and I'll get you." And I knew I was scared of my dad at that point. And getting older, I mean, there was just so many things that and I'm not doing a boohoo story. It's just a fact of the matter. You know, he's a big man like I am, and he would hit me until he literally could not lift his arms anymore. If I cried, then I was weak, and so I learned the best I could not to cry. Well, I grew up, no doubt, with anxiety. They thought I had a brain tumor. My anxieties were so bad. I remember being tested for that, and so going through and as I'm doing my own writing, I see the stages of men's life and going through that time. I'm trying to sort this out. I knew something was wrong. I never grew up in a church home, so I didn't know anything about God, but I knew this wasn't right. And there was twice that he was supposed to take my life. I told my mom, "You'll never see him again." I've got a lot of black spots, so I don't remember. I know one time he threw me in a car and told my mom, "You'll never see him," and I don't know where we went. We were gone for a substantial time, but his neighbor tried to come over and help, and my dad hit him with a 2x4, and we spun out, and that was my life, and all you want is your dad to like you, and I mean, if that's a lofty goal, there's a lot of validation, all the other things you want. I just want him to like me.
Now, let me ask you, John,
Yeah.
did you ever, is he still alive?
No, no.
Okay. Was there ever a time that you looked, was his dad the same way, or did you know much about his dad and kind of that generational thing?
Well, I can surely. My grandpa, his dad and mom, my grandma, he was a rough man. Okay, my grandpas on both sides are rough, tough guys, but my grandpa loved me. I was, for whatever reason, I was the apple of their eye, and that's why I lived with them in my younger years. Uh, but yeah, he was a tough guy. He was really tough. But I don't think it was. I know my grandma, that wasn't his real dad. I do know that. I don't know a lot of bits and pieces. And when I came to forgive my dad, I don't know when you want to talk about that, but that was a huge time. Uh, I see God working in my life, um, very in a progressive way. I didn't know anything about healing, brokenness, fatherlessness. In those days you hurt, you put dirt on it. Come on, everybody's got it. Takes a shot. Put some dirt on and go on. Quit being a sissy. But I learned young, I knew young I was on my own. I knew that. Don't trust nobody. And I would, in my personality, I'm very open to people, and God made me by that way. But in those days, you'll get 80%, John, but I'm keeping this 20% pretty close. You're not getting here. And nobody got there. I didn't.
You weren't going to be fully known to other people, right? You weren't
No,
going to
no,
let
no,
everybody know the real
no.
you. It was like, hey, I'll let you know a certain amount,
Yes.
but then I'm holding all this stuff back.
No, there was a lot of shame, and going through high school. I got in high school, which I look back now and it's not surprising. I took pride in it then, but I got in your who's best personality. I got along with everybody. I hated conflict, John. I hated it to this day. I hate it with a passion. When I seen people, tell you a story, I didn't know anything about God, so I'm in high school, and there's a girl. I won't say her name. I knew there was something different about her, and she was having these Bible studies, which meant studying some Bible, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know anything about that. But my buddy and I and a few buddies, we walked in the library one day at lunch, and a buddy of mine, I won't mention his name, really close friend, he was making fun of her. I don't even know this day. I laugh about it. I grabbed him and I slammed him against the wall and I let him have it. I said, leave her alone. She's not hurting anybody. I just knew there was something different. And it was not only that there was something different about her, but here he was picking on the weak. And I didn't tolerate that from nobody. And that's how I was. And best person, I got along with everybody.
Now,
And
did you have siblings? Did you have brothers,
yeah,
sisters?
I had one brother, one sister. Each one of us got wounded in a different way. My brother, I'm not going to mention stuff on that, but he was dealt in a different way, abused. My sister, I'm going to share this one piece to just give you a picture. I wasn't around, and I dealt with guilt for this long time because I was the protector. When he'd start on my brother, I would tell him blank, 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 and he'd take it out on me. And I felt shame for a long time that I didn't protect my brother and sister more. My sister was in high school. I'm out of the house. I got out as soon as I could. When I graduated from high school, I was gone. And my sister was there. So she's 3 years younger. And my dad, I guess, told her that she needs to realize how being fat and not very pretty, that she needs to sleep with a guy if she's going to get one. So that's just and I'm giving you that little bit, how much worse it was.
Right, right.
My dad was a broken man. And so I dealt with that. So as I got older, I had letters to play football all over the place. He never read a letter. He went to one football game of mine, and that was when the dads come out, and he wanted to be the star because, I was pretty good, I guess. And he came out, and my brother didn't even tell him what that night was. It was just stuff like that. Never opened a letter to any colleges. Never, I remember first time I was a junior in high school, and I benched over 300. And that's pretty good for a high school kid. And I was pretty proud of that. Dad, I everything to get him to like me. I didn't know about validation, but I want him to like me, Dad. And well, if you got much, once you do this, and it was, thanks, Dad.
It was nothing was ever good enough, right? And it was
Oh,
always, and you were always trying to, Dad, look at me, say you're proud of me, you love me, you believe, all that stuff that every
yeah,
little boy needs, right?
yeah, and you defend him. You defend him when that's my dad. And when I talk to men now, you can't get away from that. That's your dad, no matter who he is. That's your dad. And I defend him, and I do this, and you just got a point where your progression in your life, and I'm kind of writing about this right now, but you get to your teenage years, it's where you're feeling your oats, you're feeling, and you just know something's wrong, so you just become independent. You set those boundaries up. Okay, Dad, I know how you are. I remember the last time he beat me. I was probably about 15 years old, and he put a wailing on me. Oh, but dude, he'd had to kill me. I wasn't crying. That was not going to happen. And I was in the corner just covered up, and so I didn't have marks when I went to school. And I remember that he literally could not lift his arm. And I wasn't crying. He'd had to kill me. There's no way I was crying. And I said, I beat you, you son of a bitch. I beat you. And he stomped out of the room. I mean, I cried like a baby. That hurt so bad. But those are you just didn't do that. You just, and I caught myself when I come to know Christ. I don't know when you want to talk about that, but when I came to know Christ, the emotion that came over me, whoa, this ain't good. No. And I was trying to run out of that church. No.
Well, so let me back up to
Yeah.
before we jump into the forgiveness piece
Yeah,
about
you
your dad.
bet. You bet.
There was we interviewed a UFC fighter, and he told this story about his dad also being abusive and him having all this incredible anger
Mhm.
towards his dad. And he said, Johnny, he said, that's what made me so bad in the
Yeah,
ring, is I was taking all of that anger that had been bottled up so much into every fight. And he goes, that's why I was so good at what I did.
that's why I played football the way I did.
I was just fixing
Exactly.
to say, was that you took and bottled that up somehow, some way? Now, were you also a guy that got into a lot of fights and beat a lot of guys up, or no?
No, because I didn't I don't mean to swear, but I got to use this. I
Yeah.
used to have a sticker on my car that says, I don't take shit, I don't give shit, I'm not in the shit business. And that's how I ran my life. I just did. I don't, let's not go there. Let's just leave that alone. Let's go have another beer. And I was, just a second here. And so, no, I didn't. Now, if I seen people hurting weaker people, that I was right in the middle of that. I only remember one fight that I was ever in that it was my fault and I caused it. I just didn't do that. But I wasn't backing down either. But that's why I played football the way I did. It was a legal place. Now you got to remember, John, I'm 60 years old. Okay. In those days, we don't know about wounds and stuff. We don't know about this stuff. But I knew on the football field, I'm putting that guy out. And I remember one game I put 3 people in the hospital, literally personally. And I took pride in that. See, I could do that. My strength, the strength that I didn't know, and now I know all the things that I know now, that was my strength. Yes, I am strong. And it was a false poser. When I was a junior in high school, they wanted to put me in rehab. I was drinking. Holy moly. Holy moly, was I drinking. I remember the first time my buddy, their family owned a hamburger stand on the freeways about 4 miles from their house. I remember the first time we cracked a fifth of whiskey, threw the cap out the window and drank the whole thing before we got there 4 miles. And after that, it was no big deal. It was just, I remember getting into it with the cops. I mean, I had my own cell at one time. Wasn't much, but it was mine.
So tell us about the story of how and when you came to find forgiveness for your dad.
Well, I got to back up a little bit, John, because through this whole process, God was in the midst of that from my first beating till now. He's still in the process. I know that God has made it very clear to me, son, your dad wasn't going to take your life. I needed you to go through that because I need you in 50 years. And I'm totally 100% convinced of that. 50 years later, I started ministry that it's been pretty awesome. But when I came, I was, right out of high school, got married, football, jock, and cheerleader. Okay, typical thing. We had 2 kids. Okay, it was a mess. I mean, it was it was a mess. So, but I wanted to stay married. And so I went to my introduction to God really is I just stopped by the church and I went to the pastor. I said, hey, I know these, pastors are tight with God. They're supposed to be wherever this God is. And I went to him, I said, I don't want to go through divorce. I talk to this God and help us. Well, he stepped in, didn't help us, which I thought, yeah, you're really tight with God. But the guy never gave up on me. Every week, knock at my door. Hey, John. And I send him down the road kicking rocks so many times I don't even know. Finally, every week, hey, John. And finally, I let him in and we talked and he let me, I call them fair questions. He let me ask these and he was not intimidated by them. Why did this stuff happen to me? Why is this God so, all the typical questions we ask. And I really was hung up on, if Jesus died on the cross, I didn't have no problem with that, but my cousin died for me in Vietnam too. So what's the difference? So I had a tough time sorting that out. Anyway, I finally went to church, and I'll make this a little quicker, but I don't know how long, again, black spots in my history. I don't remember. I don't know if I went 3 weeks or 3 months. I don't remember. But it was a Southern Baptist church. They were singing this song, Just As I Am. I think there's 4,000 verses in the song. And they're not leaving until somebody responds, okay? We're not leaving here. Well, I'm in the back, and I am crushing this pew. I mean, I am, and tears, and I don't know what's going on. This is stupid. There ain't 3 people in my life to ever see me cry. And I don't know what's going on. And this lady, her name is Jody Pratt. And I want to say her name because she's gone now, but I love her. She came up to me, a little gal from Oklahoma, a little Okie lady, put her arm, she knew me, some young, and put her arm on my shoulder. She said, "Why are you fighting it so much?" And I'm telling you, it was like 10 men grabbed me. I flew out of that church. I was leaving. Holy God, what's going on? I ran out of the church. 2 ushers were at the door. "Hey, John." I'm going, oh no. So I went upstairs trying to get my composure. I don't know what's going on. And there's a little closet. And I went in there, sat in the chair, and I'm trying to get my composure. And the pastor left the service right after me in that little closet. I gave my life to Christ. Now, I knew something changed. But John, I spent the next 20 years. That doesn't mean because I said yes that all this wound just goes away. So I had spent with a volatile relationship with God. I mean, it was volatile. And so anyway, this was in 1983. I'm struggling this. I'm trying to please God. I tell people I felt like the Toby Keith song, "How Do You Like Me Now?" Because I'm trying to do this in this God world. Hey, look what I'm doing. I'm doing all this. I'm doing. And one little ripple in the pond, I was shattered because I just want God to like me, right? My dad's face is plastered. God, please like me. And I fought that for years. Well, it was probably early 90s. I was talking to my dad on the phone. This before I knew anything about wounds, before John Eldridge, before anything. I was talking to my dad on the phone. As a matter of fact, I was standing right over here in the kitchen, and it just come over me. What did a mile my moccasins look for my dad growing up? To create every kid. I played with trucks and cowboys and Indians and all this stuff, and I know my dad did too. Something had to have broken from there to adulthood. No little kid is natural to wake up and say, "Man, I hope I hate my own first son." So it just hit me, and I know it's a God thing because I didn't understand wounds or anything in it. And I've been in counseling so many times, John. Oh, I had one counselor tell me, "Let's write some things down of things your dad did." So we wrote them on a piece of paper, and he lit them on fire in a garbage can. "Let's send them up to the Holy Spirit." I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I need meat and potatoes, and you're giving me this? And I just laughed. And I was in counseling trying to get to the forgiveness part, and in my kitchen, and I know it was God, even through my volatile relationship with him, I had compassion for my dad's part. And I seen my dad, hopefully like Jesus seen him. And I said, "Dad, I don't know what you went through that caused you to become the monster that you became." But I said, "I'm so sorry, Dad. I am so sorry you went through that. And I'm not holding anything against you anymore." And I'm a joke up right now. Sorry about that. But it was left. It was like 1,000 pounds left me. And I shared Jesus with him. I shared him. I shared with him what he did to the family. And I said, "Dad, we needed you." Now, that didn't mean he was coming over to take my kids out to lunch. It didn't mean he's coming over to stay at my house. But it left me. I know from this day I have zero animosity to my dad, and praise God for that. I went to counseling to get this done. I spent so much money, it was ridiculous. And it was just God that, And that was a progression. Do you remember Promise Keepers?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Tell you a quick story about that. So I'm going through this now. I'm divorced now. For the second time now. Okay. Now I'm not going to go through all that, but I'm a mess, and I married messes. So I'm so angry with God. I'm just so done. I'm just done. My brother-in-law, and I love him dearly. He's a good man, loves God. He invited me when Promise Keepers was here in Oregon, and he invited me to go to that. Now, to be honest with you, I was ticked that he even asked me. Okay, but I love him, and I knew he wanted the best. So I said, "Yeah, I'll go." So, John, I'm so ticked. I am so angry about this. I can't even communicate it to you. So my brother-in-law and his cronies were sitting on this bench. I'm sitting about 2 steps down. And about 2 steps down is this biker, rough, long-haired, tattooed, tough, big guy. And to be honest with you, all I want to do is go to the parking lot with this guy. That's all I want to do. That's all honest to God, I'm almost obsessed with this. And I'm so angry. And you tell me that God doesn't have a sense of humor. I mean, I know he said, "Hey, archangels, watch this." I know John's heart, watch this. So I'm sitting down below these guys, and he's biker guys here. Well, they'd speak, and he'd mock them. "What the blank?" And I told him, I said, "Why don't you shut up?" And my brother-in-law he's just cringing. "Oh no, oh no," and honest to God, all my intent is, let's go to the parking lot. And I'm on this guy. Let's go. Let's stir this up. That's how goofy, how stupid I got. Anyway, he started in again. I said, "What's your problem?" Now this dialogue went on for about 20 minutes. And I said, "What's your problem?" Johnny told me. He sat right up there and told me about his wife leaving and his brokenness. And I'm going, "No, God, no, I'm not going there. No." And I'm thinking in my head, no. Long story short, I ended up walking this guy all the way down to get his life right with God. And every step, I'm angry. I'm angry. And that's just the progression that God worked in my life. And it didn't heal me. I was ticked all the way home. but that's how God worked in my life.
Dude, I love that the whole story. It's such a powerful story. And in knowing now, I think in the sense that when the Bible talks about God using bad for good,
Yes.
and how he put you through all that, because I know the ministry that you have just in your life and the way that
Yep.
you live your life and the guys that you talk to, and
Yep.
and where you're at, you're not dealing with the delicate, men of whatever. It's the
They
rough
can
and
have
tough,
both.
and yeah, and it's like you can literally have conversations, real conversations with these men, love on them and encourage them and tell them, "Look, I've been there.
Yep.
I've lived that," right?
Just went through that 2 nights ago. I went out to my truck. We had my wife went on a mission trip this year, and the pastor from Uganda is here, and he stayed the night at our house. And I wanted to show him a picture, and my phone was out my truck, so I ran out to my truck. And so when I went out there, all my neighbors, I mean, I'll get a knock at the door, and they know where I stand, but they know I love them. They know I'm there. I'm in their foxhole. And they were out there. Well, this one gal, I won't say her name, she just got out of jail. And I've known her since she was a kid. And I asked her, I said, "Well, how'd orange look on you?" And not very good. And I said, "I don't think so." I said, "You're too beautiful." I said, "You created God's image." I said, oh, I almost said her name. I said, you're better than this." And she said, "Well, John, I'm going to go into rehab." I said, "Oh, right on." And I told her how I can help. And I said, and I shared my story right after I got saved. There's this friend of mine, and we were tight from all growing up. We were closer than brothers. And that was a tough one. I remember we were sitting in my truck, and I told him, I said, I don't want to say his name either, but I said, "I can't run around with you no more." I said, "I don't want to get high no more. I'm right with God right now. I'm trying to do this. I can't do this." And we didn't see each other 5 years. We're both teared up because we're so close, but I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't. I'll just get high with you again. I don't want to do that anymore. And I told her this story. I said, I've been there. I said, you got to watch the friends you're around. I said, you got to change those. I said, that's hard. But I said, my wife is right there in your corner and I'm in your corner. She started crying. She said, I know that. Well, about that time, I guess it's her boyfriend come around the corner. And I said, with me and guys, I said, who are you? He says, well, I'm Jordan. You met me. And I said, oh, did I? I said, are you any good for her? And he said, well, I think so. I said, you think so? I said, you think you're good enough for her? I said, but you got to know that. You got to know that. And I said, and then I calmed down. And I pat him on the shoulder. I said, I'm just kidding you. You know that. And I said, you guys, I've been there. I was supposed to be in rehab. I went through this stuff. I said, all I could tell you is I tried all the other ways. God healed it. And I got to share my testimony with them. Anyway, long story short is he's supposed to come over to my house tonight. I told him, I said, you need to. I said, at least explore it to see if there's God. I said, you guys got to determine, is there a God or is there not a God? If there's not a God, who cares about any of this? It doesn't matter. But if there's a God, everything matters. I said, you guys matter. And he's supposed to, I said, my door's open. He said, well, I'd like that. I said, are you sure? I said, I'm not going to run you down. I said, but my door's open, man. He says, and so we'll see if he shows up. So, but that's how my life is all the time. I mean,
dude, I love it, man. Bro, you know what? And I see a man like you and I hear your stories and it's inspiring to me. And I think it'll be inspiring to so many other men too, that you are truly living the hands and feet of God. You're being the hands and feet of God, and that the love and just accepting people for who they are
that's
and
right.
all the junk they got and no judgment and any of that stuff. Let's jump into you as a father piece.
Yeah.
What's been one of your biggest struggles as a dad and how did you overcome it?
That's a tough one, John. I got 6 kids. Okay. I was a single dad. I got custody of my kids. I was a single dad of 4. My wife she had 2 little girls. They were in diapers. They were my girls. So we got 6 kids, 2 boys and 4 girls. And I wasn't a very good dad. I was a very angry dad. And they got to do just about any activities. I made sure on that part. My brother and I used to call each other when we first started having kids regularly, just to remind each other we're not going to be like dad. And I mean, literally reminded ourselves because we knew we could. So there was things I did better. But between my anger and my hypocrisy, saying we need to love God, and then I'm living with my wife and I started living together. I made a mess. My 2 boys, my oldest son, my expectations were off the chart, unattainable. What do you mean? I've been a fishing guide for years and a hunting guide, and what do you mean you're 8 years old and you can't run that boat on the trailer? They were unattainable. I see that in his life to this day. He's always selling himself. Him and I talk to each other. So I got my other son. Well, I know I screwed up there. So I got my other son and I did everything with him. I mean, I did everything for him. I did just completely the pendulum the other way. I hurt my boys. My girls, I dated my girls. I think I was better with my girls. But they still seen dad's anger. So they're going to think that's expected. My oldest daughter really takes the reap of that. But I'm seeing God work. I got to talk to 2 of my daughters this morning. They're in the race with God. They're doing well. Quick story. My one daughter was at a garage sale, bought a suitcase for $1, took it home, and there was an envelope with $1,000 in it. Oh, yeehaw. So I just let it simmer. She called this morning. She says, I've got to give it back. I said, I think so. But I said, God, I said, she said, he's testing me. I said, no, he's not. He's giving you opportunity. Who you
Was
gonna
was there time too, John, where, because you're saying a lot of what you're explaining in yourself, as much as you didn't want to be like your dad,
No, I
you
was.
were. Yeah, that's where I was the same way. I thought all my life I hated, bitter, resented. And then at one point when I'm 41 years old, I'll turn around, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm
Mhm.
just like my old man, and I swore I'd never be. And is that something you got
Well,
to that point in your life?
I did, John. Um, Again, I didn't know about woundedness. Okay, here's what happened. How I got squared away on that. And my wife Stacy, and we got a good marriage. It gets better. I don't even know I loved her when I got married. I don't. But boy, I do now. I mean, phew, I'm a pretty lucky guy. My anxiety, you got to understand, didn't go away because I got saved. Okay, when Stacy and I first got together, first got married, it praise God, she even stayed with me. My anxiety was so off the charts because I had women that cheated on me regularly. Things never lasted. I would come home from work, and people that don't understand anxiety, I've got ministries with this one young lady specifically. She was even hurting herself, and because I understand anxiety. If you don't haven't been through it, a person doesn't know it. You know in your head you're doing wrong, but you cannot stop it. You can't. I would come home from work and she'd be gone. She'd be at the grocery store or whatever. I'd tear this house apart, looking through her underwear drawer to rings to jewelry, find out what she would have took. There was times her stuff was thrown out in the yard, John. That's how stupid I got. And she'd come home with a bag of groceries. I knew it was wrong and I couldn't stop it. My wife tolerated that, put up with that. Well, we had these dear people, and I'd recommend to anybody find a older couple that's solid marriage and beg them, pay for them, do whatever, walk with me. And we had that couple. I confessed this to them, and I knew I had to confess this to my wife, but I know her. Oh, I understand what you went through. It's okay. No, no, this is not okay. And so they came over, and I shared that. What my wife ended up doing, every time she left the house, she'd write a note. Hey, I left at 3:15. I should be home by 4:20. Love you. My kids, even her sister, everybody. Well, you're not the one that caused this. You shouldn't have to do this. But she loved my heart. And God used her to heal me because I began to trust and the anxiety. She still every now and then writes me a note. I get a kick out of it. But anyway, so God was in the midst still wanting the best for us, loving us, giving us grace. It was about 12 years ago. My wife was going through a tough time. I mean, a really, really rough time. I didn't know how to fix it. We had a hunting outfit in Wyoming. I have to leave. I don't have a choice. We got 60 customers coming out to shoot things, and I got to be there. I went to the Bible study we were in, asked the women there if they'd follow up on her, pray. Oh yeah, John, you just go. We'll take care of it. Not one phone call. The church I was going to, the pastor, I seen him at one of our stores before I left. He said, John, how you doing? I said, well, you want the truth or generic? Because I don't care one way or another. And he, no, what's going on? I said, my marriage is holding on the thread and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do. Again, I'm angry at God. I am so angry. I'm done. I mean, I'm just cycle again. And anyway, he says, well, we'll make sure we'll pray for you. Well, I haven't heard from him. That was 12 years ago. I haven't heard from him since. Anyway, when I left, John, a friend of mine, gave me a book, Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. I was ticked off that he gave me this book, really. Yeah, this book is going to fix everything, right? But I knew this guy cared. So I took it to Wyoming with me and I read it. The first thing I got out of that book was I'm not alone. Because I felt alone. Nobody knows what I'm feeling. Who am I going to tell? And I mean, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? My dad don't even like me. God doesn't like me. What is wrong with me? And so I read the book and wow. So I called my wife and I told her, I said, honey, I said, the only thing I read this book And I don't think I'm alone. I go to church, even to this day, I struggle. I go because I believe in the church, but I feel like the third wheel. I'm redneck John. That's as good as it gets. That loves God. And that's all I got from it. But I read through it. And I wasn't coming home, John. I figured our marriage was over. I'd take care of her, but I can't keep doing this. And I'm so angry. Went back to my regular counselor, Dr. Jack Daniels, had a bottle of him between my legs, and the hunt's done. I'm by myself in my bunkhouse, and I'm getting drunked up, and I'm so angry with God. I'm so angry. Now, if I tear up, that's just the way it goes because it's me.
You're fine, brother.
We didn't have a lot of good reception out there, so we had videos, DVDs. So I was watching this movie. You probably will seen it, Facing the Giants. Okay, I was watching this movie, and I'm about drunked up. I mean, I'm kind of watching it. Anywhere in the movie, he changes his whole philosophy of coaching, and his wife wanted to have a baby, and he asked her. He said, "If we never have a baby, are you still going to love God?" And that hit me. That made me go, huh. And then later on, she thought she was dead and one, but she went out, and I can't imagine any greater desire than anybody on this earth than a woman wanting a baby. And she said, God, if I never have a child, I will love you. And I know it sounds silly because it's a part of a woman part of that, but it spoke to me. I had such a conditional relationship with God. I dumped the bottle out and I got on my knees. And I said, God, I will trust you. No matter what happens, I'm going to trust you. And 12 years later, knock on wood, I still have not blamed God for one thing. I know I could be that guy again, but not with his power and strength. I'm not. I called Stacy up and I said, I'm coming home. I said, I don't know how this is going to work, but there's something going on here. And I had a worship time with God by myself. There was nobody to impress. It was just me and God that I've never had come close to. And I love worshiping God. But I knew there was something. So I got home. We started working on things. We had a long road. But I always got back that wild heart. Okay, God, what now? And God, it felt like I needed to do more. I had to start with my kids. And I went to ask them to forgive me. I was truthful. I said, I tell my guys when I'm doing my study, I said, every man is sent out in the world to some age to build their life. Some people got a nice snap-on toolbox with a lot of tools to build their life with. Some of us got a rusty toolbox with a bent hammer and a rusty screwdriver. Say, good luck, son, go build your life. And we do the best we can. And I like the one part of that one video, like I said in yours, it seemed right. It's so let's just do it. It seems like it's the right thing to do. And that's how you do it. You just give it your best shot. And that's what I did. But I knew something was different. I knew there has to be something, this is connected with my dad somehow. And as I read John Eldredge's first time that I didn't understand at this point, I'm wounded. It took me a long time to be able to say that I was abused. I still don't taste good. It still doesn't. I didn't have the opportunity to go back to my dad because I'm pretty sure that he committed suicide. I'm pretty sure that because he was found dead, and I don't want to go there, but I know I was good with him. And so anyway, I got back and I said, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this? So I got a group of my buddies together. We went through the book. For 12 years now, I do at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and I do the video thing, and I could go on and on with testimonies of men that had never been in church a day in their life, are now leading their families. And for years now, they've been doing this.
So in all of that, and I
Mhm,
see the vulnerability, the authenticity, the
mhm.
transparency, all of that, dude. And that's what I love about you, bro. I just love it. I mean, you see it in guys, it's so obvious.
Yes, it
In
is.
all of that, your kids have seen that too and know, wow, there's something totally different about
Yes.
dad versus
Great.
before, right? And even with your understanding, knowing that I did some things to my kids that I probably shouldn't have before, pre-Christ, if you will, right?
Yes.
And knowing though at the same time that you've walked that walk with your father, so no matter how long it may take,
Yeah.
they'll come around and they'll see at some point Christ in you
Mhm.
and see it in a way. I know it's hard and it's a patience and trust thing, right? Because you're like, Lord, please, I want so badly to have this new relationship with these kids, the ones that are still not quite getting it or whatever. But that's the good thing though, that the
Yeah.
kids have seen this incredible transformation in you, correct?
Well, you're right, John. My kids were all adults and out of the house by the time I got squared away. And I've told my kids, you are wounded. I'm sorry. I wounded you. You're going to deal with some of this the rest of your life. I will deal with some of the stuff that I've dealt with the rest of my life. That doesn't consume me like it used to. But just told my kids, I said, talk's cheap. But I've asked them, I've asked them to forgive me. We went through that. And I think I've got a couple kids that don't talk to me much. It's okay. God's bigger than this. Um, but we're seeing my kids come along. We're seeing this, and I told them I didn't start very good, but I'm going to end well. I promise you. I promise you, kids. I have to promise them individually. I promise I'm going to end well. I'm going to finish this race well, and I pray. My prayer is that they see how I end, not how I started. And I've got 7 grandkids, so I remind them they're going to deal with the same thing. We have a decision to break this generational curse right now or let it continue. And God loves us enough to give us what we want. And but my kids know that one phone call, whatever I'm doing is dropped. I'm at their doorstep. Um, but they have a road to hoe. They really do. My older kids, yeah, it breaks me, it hurts me, but God's bigger than that. And
And you know what, dude? We've all wounded our kids, bro. We
yeah,
have it. I don't care how phenomenal and incredible a dad is.
that's right.
No one's perfect. Well, I've wounded my kids. When we were interviewing Eldridge,
Yep,
Eldridge said, "Man, I've wounded my kids,
yep,
but I think they know I love them."
yep.
And things are different. And that's the same thing. When my kids were so young at the time, they didn't get to see the really bad John, you
Hmm.
know, the jerk John.
Hmm.
But there's, I think, still memories, little stuff here and there. They understand that, I was a certain way before, and now I'm a certain way. I'm still a jacked up and screwed up dude who's
Yeah,
doing the best he can,
that's right.
right? But they have seen a transformation in me, and to what degree. But dude, I think the message that you have and what you said a while ago is what so many men need to understand and know. And that's what we're doing with the encouraging dads is
Yeah.
you are not alone.
Nope. That's amen.
Because Satan, he did the same thing with me. He had convinced me that I was all alone and the only one struggling with what I was struggling with. And I was the
Yes.
only jacked up dude out there.
Yep.
I thought everybody else had this father thing and husband thing figured out, and everybody else's life was just amazing. And I was just so messed up.
Yeah. Like I said, I was a fishing guide for years. I can't even tell you how angry I was with God when I'd bring a dad or 3 generations on my boat and they're just having a good time seeing this relationship work together. And I'm going, thanks, God. Thanks. I mean, I resented that so deeply. And now I share, don't miss out on what you got. We got a good God, and this is what it could look like. And it don't matter. We're getting to God. We get on my boat or get in my truck, go hunting. We're going to get to God, because there's a God or there's not a God, and we have to come to that. And what I deal with men a lot now, for 12 years, I've been doing this ministry, and I've got a couple of them that I got so much stuff going on that I love it. I'm doing a kids ministry I'm putting together right now, and putting my shop together but it's cool. It's good. But with men, there's so many angry men, yet if you had a gun to the head, they couldn't tell you why. And I was the same way. You have no idea why that. It's not because that lawnmower don't get start and then it gets slung clear across the yard. It's our question. John Eldridge hit it right on. It's our question. And I believe that with everything. So what happens is Satan, and I think it's page 104 in your book. I wrote notes in there. You describe all three ways that the enemy works. There is no enemy. I'm on my own. There is no enemy. Then intimidation. Then compromise. So I ask my men, when they're struggling, okay, what three ways are you getting worked on? I tell them, we're the thermostat, not the thermometer, man. You got to get this right. But I deal with the men, and there's so much shame. Gosh, I know what I did, and I that's what makes you. Oh, you just. I said, how many of you men have wound up with your head in your hand, wonder why did I do that again? And I'll get tears every time. We've all been there, and the shame. But I said, if you said yes to Christ, and I got to kind of run and joke with my guys, but I said, it's like, the thing is we need to understand we are all spirit. We have a soul and we live it out of our body. Okay? If we say yes to Christ, our spirit, we're holy and righteous. We are, and it's sealed. Nothing, it's like my vacuum packer. The good ain't getting out, the bad ain't coming in. But I said, I asked him, I said, is a peach tree only a peach tree when it's got peaches on it? No, and then dormant, it's still peach tree. I said, that's what's happening. I said, right now, we're not seeing fruit. That's okay. The seed is planted if you said yes to Christ. And we need to rest in that, because Satan will always attack our identity. That's what he did with Adam and Eve, and that's what he did with Jesus. He said to Jesus, if you are the Son of God, but what did he leave out? Beloved. He left that part out. If you didn't say if you're the beloved, because now that brings Father in. See, my kids can say, yeah, I'm John's kids. I'm a child of John. But if they say I'm a beloved child of John, that changes things up now. We are beloved children of God. But we just don't have a peach tree, but it's coming.
Amen, dude. Hey, as we wrap up, bro, one last question.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in front of a new father, mm-hmm. and he literally just had his baby, or he's gonna be a new father in a week, whatever, and he says, man, if you could give me one piece of advice, what's the most important piece of advice you'd give me? What would it be?
Get your relationship with God first. And there's three questions. And I just went through that. I got a brand new grandson, brand new one, he's a couple months old. And I went through this with the dad. Okay, he's a good man and he loves God. But I told him, you got to determine, is there God or not a God? Is he good all the time? Is he trustworthy? You've got to establish, no Sunday school answer. You got to get that squared away. And get that squared away, because you're the thermostat in this family, not the thermometer. You don't go with the family. You're the thermostat, and they're looking up for you. And if we become godly men, I believe women and children will walk to the end of the earth with us and jump off when we get there. But then the next thing for your kids, love God first and love your wife more than you do your kids. Love her. Cherish her. Just absolutely adore her. Because that's the best gift we can give to our kids, love our wives. The best.
Hey, man, dude, you're so good, bro. I love having a conversation with you. You literally inspire me, bro. It's amazing stuff. Now, if guys want to reach out to you, what's the best way to connect?
Oh, they can email. You do it, John Stacy, which you got JONSTACY at AOL.com. call me. My cell phone's open to anybody. 503-539-1576.
And
And
you got Twitter too, don't you?
no, John, I can barely turn this on. Okay, you know that.
Wait, I forgot. How did we connect? How did you see the movie and stuff or find out? I can't remember. I thought we connected on
John,
Twitter for some reason.
we got to know each other because of my ministry and fatherlessness. I mean, it's just my heart, broken men. I was watching one of the TV shows and they were interviewing you, this John Finch. And I was watching this and
you thought, that guy is so stinking handsome. I got to call him and see how he's got that figured out.
yeah, it was right there, right down along that line. But I emailed you and I told you, I said, brother, this is my heart too. This is my passion. I said, and I'm going to pray for your ministry. And I said, if you're ever in the Northwest, here's my phone number. Give me a call and let's go. I'll take you fishing. And
I remember that.
And you called me,
that.
and I was shocked that you called me. But we, you know, our spirits just clicked. I mean, our passions are the same, and you know, and then you gave me the link to the movie and the book. I got the book and got it marked all over the place, like my John Eldridge book. I'm taping pages. I buy his books by the case.
Yeah,
I give them away. I give them away like, oh, I've given literally hundreds of those books away. And I gave 2 away the other day going back to Uganda.
Yeah, he is such a stud. He really is just such a good guy too, that we got to spend about 2.5 hours with him. And just
Wow.
He's as good as gold. I'm just so genuine, just such a great guy. But
yeah, I've tried to contact him. I've never heard from him. But and it's funny. I'll tell you, here's something that's funny. So I'm John, my wife is Stacy. John Eldridge is John and Stacy. And then another guy I love, a great book, is True Faced by John Lynch. It's John and Stacy.
That's funny. Too many John. If my wife was named Stacy, then that would be really scary.
Oh, I'm telling you. And the funny thing is, when you called and I said you're John Finch, and my wife says if her name is Stacy, we just laugh.
That is hilarious.
But yeah, but no, my wife's she is, you know, we've talked about it. She has seen a change in me. I used to read when I do the study, and she has heard it many times, is I'd read the chapters to her out loud. And after hearing it multiple times, she'd say, you guys really deal with this. I said, every minute of our lives, honey. Every minute of our lives, I deal with my question. And I've got to get this squared away. But my validation, I've learned, doesn't come from you, doesn't come from how good I did my kids, but who God says I am. That's the identity I got to live with.
Amen, dude.
And I'm trusting it.
Bro, I greatly appreciate you, man. And we'll do this again because I love your just heart and your passion and just your desire to help, man. So we'll do it again. I greatly appreciate
you too, man. That's how we connected. I can read your heart. I can see it, and you know, I can't wait till I get this conference going. I'm still working at it, brother. I'm getting.
I can't wait to go fishing with you, man. I'm coming up there sometime in the next year. We're going to go fishing, man.
You got to see this fish that I caught. I know we got to go, but we caught a first one ever recorded off the Oregon coast, and God put it on my line. 7-foot 2-inch striped marlin.
Wow.
Off the Oregon coast, and we landed it. We got it. Never been recorded before.
That's crazy.
And I'll tell you what, so I wrote in my Facebook, I said, because I use that for ministry, I said, I'm really ticked off at God. I mean, I prayed, we went tuna fishing again, and I prayed that we'd get another striped marlin, and he didn't get us one. I wonder, did he forget me? And I went on this, and I wrote tongue in cheek, I said, you know, don't we get that way? Don't we forget how good God is to us so quickly?
Yes, we
do. I got a lot of response. Yeah, okay, John, you made your point.
That's funny. Well, dude, we'll connect again soon, man. Keep doing what you're doing, brother.
I'm getting into. I got an appointment. I've had 2 now, and they asked me about teaching Wild at Heart in the jail, so I'm going to be getting in that soon. I'm really jazzed about that, John. Pray about that for me.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
We'll
excited.
reconnect soon, dude. I'll be back in contact with you.
All right, brother. Be good.
Buddy. See you, bud.
Keep loving your wife. See ya.
You